Never Flinch by Stephen King. You're about to enter a place where reason unravels, where the mind frays like old rope in salt water. This isn't a ghost story in the traditional sense. There are no rattling chains, no translucent women in white. What you're about to hear is real. At least, as real as I can tell it. This is a story about obsession, about the lies we tell ourselves in the name of art, and a man named Arnold Tetterly who could make photographs do things they had no right to do. My name is Peter Vowell. What follows isn't fiction. It's a memory that claws behind my eyes every time I close them. And if you listen long enough, closely enough, you might feel it too, pressing in from the dark. So take a breath, and never flinch. I push open the door and step into half-shaded gloom. The main room is cramped, walls crowded with framed photographs of people who look as though they'd walked off some silent movie set. Faces frozen in expressions of terror, mouths agape, eyes wide as though caught mid-scream. One photograph in particular pins me in place. A young woman, her hair fanned around her like a bloody halo, her eyes dead and empty. Underneath, Tetterly's inscription, Ethel Grant, August 3rd, 1962, a moment of true horror. I think my heart skipped a beat. I feel a chill leak down my neck. I say to the man behind a small mahogany desk, "You arranged that shot yourself?" He looks up, short, misshapen, his head tilted slightly to one side as if something inside it is broken. He nods, the faintest smile pulling at his lips. Yes. Ethel thought it would be fun, a little staged fright. I gave her a demonstration. He gestures to a nearby easel holding a lantern with a long, knotted cord. You know, that's where it happened. I lean forward. I've done enough Halloween spook shoots to recognize a gimmick. Hidden wires, a mechanical camera trigger, a bit of stop this at the last minute nonsense. But something about Tetterly's voice, soft, almost coaxing, makes me hesitate. He's not bragging, just stating facts. I say staged? But she wasn't really a... He interrupts, I never said she wasn't scared. She was terrified. Gargling screams like a fish out of water. I captured that face at the exact moment before she, well... He pauses, and for the first time his smile looks brittle, hollow. She died mid-scream. The lamp's cord curled around her ankle and down the basement steps she went. Broke her neck. I swallow hard. My pulse thunders in my ears. The old floorboards creak as I step back. You mean she fell? He shrugs casually. Fell. There was blood on the stairs in the photo. But in the dark, you can't be sure how it happened. Until you look at her eyes. He points to a small code scratched into the corner of the portrait. GF 62-8. I knew those letters meant nothing to me, but over the next week they'd haunt every photograph I shot. Something about that face, frozen between life and death, lingered in my memory like an itch I couldn't scratch. A week later, I find myself back on 58th Street, camera in hand, because the network wants a special, Tetterly's Terrifying Portraits. They think it's a gimmick, the world's only portrait studio where your death is captured. I need a killer shot to sell, to outdo any other photographer. I tell myself I'm not gullible, that I'll come away with maybe a staged scream, maybe a good story. But as soon as I step in, Tetterly's eyes seem to break right through me, and I know this isn't a joke. He greets me without surprise, like he's been waiting. Back again, Mr. Vowell? Sit. His voice is silky, a velvet trap. He leads me to a leather-upholstered chair in front of his old Rolleiflex hanging from a tripod. He shows me how to look through the viewfinder, the tiny image of me perched in that chair, looking pale. He adjusts the lighting to low amber. There's a black cloth draped over the camera and two elegant metal clamps at either side. Tiny wires snaking from them into the basement floor. Promise me you won't flinch, Peter, he says. Because if you do, well, he lets that hang. I force a laugh. You wouldn't dare. He leans in as though sharing a secret. I would. I've done it before. He turns and slides a small lever near the back of the tripod. The camera shutters snap, no film inside. When he pulls the cloth off, I see 2 brass electrodes attached to my temples, so fine I barely feel them. He's wired me. Don't move, he says. Look straight ahead. My pulse hammers, my pulse, and then something else deep down that whispers I'm making a colossal mistake. But Tetterly's gentle "don't flinch" is a challenge I can't ignore. The bright flash of the strobe lights blinds me for a moment, and then, as I blink, I feel the current rise. A faint tingling behind my eyes as though a hand is rubbing my skull. I think I hear Tetterly's calm voice in the dark. That's it, good. Stay still. His boots thump on the floorboards above. Then, as the charge sharpens, it's like my eyelids are molasses, too heavy to lift. My bones buzz, sweat beads on my forehead. My vision tunnels, and the edges of the basement seem to curl closer. I feel something wriggle in the shadows beneath the tripod. At first I think it's a rodent, but the shape is too human. 2 legs crumpled, a torso folded, like someone collapsed. The smell of damp earth and disinfectant is overpowering. I open my mouth to say something, maybe stop, but the electrodes tighten and a low hum fills my ears like the world's smallest helicopter buzzing at my temples. And then I see her. Ethel Grant's face appears behind me in a tarnished oval mirror leaning against a wall. Her hair is plastered to her skull, her eyes glassy, dead, and she's mouthing "don't move," though I knew that breath has long since left her lungs. My heartbeat thunders. I want to jerk my head away, but there's nowhere to go. The wires tether me. He leans in beside the camera, whispering, almost there. Hold it. My ribs ache as though something inside me is twisting, snapping. My breath comes in desperate gasps. Ethel's face looms larger, no flicker of life flickers in those eyes. The electrodes flare, and I see every detail, the fine hairs behind her ears, the pale blue of her iris, the emptiness in her pupils, like bottomless pits. I gape, my heart is a frantic bird. Then, a sudden jerk of my shoulders. I flinch. The golden plaque falls off the wall with a crash. The electrodes spark, and I feel a shockwave. Like someone struck me across the back of the skull with a sledgehammer. My knees give out, and I slump sideways, the basement floor rushing to meet me. I awaken on my back. The only light comes from a cracked bulb hanging overhead. Tetterly stands above me, face drained of color. "Did you flinch?" he asks quietly. I put my hand to my temple. Sticky warmth. I feel the cameras gone. The chair is overturned behind me. My lens cap rests on the floor like a discarded eye. I say, I don't know. He kneels, examines my fingers. A micro burn, less than a centimeter. That's all. You'll be okay. I nod, though my head throbs. He helps me up and leads me to the stairs. The air grows warmer as we climb into the main room, where he switches on the overhead lights. Every framed portrait seems to grow darker, more accusing. "Let's see what you captured," he says. He points to a small digital monitor on the desk. I hover beside him. Tetterly clicks through frames. Half blur, my face frozen in a skeletal grimace, sweat dripping into my eyes. Then frame 237. My neck is arched unnaturally, my eyes wide as though I'm peering into hell itself. Behind me, on the monitor, is Ethel's reflection, translucent, her lips creeping into a grin. I feel bow rise in my throat. That's impossible. He nods gravely. She can't rest. Not until her picture is taken by someone who's never flinched. You hesitated, Peter. You moved, but you survived. That's more than most. I reach up to touch my cheek, it's already cold. The stench of something rotten bristles at my mind, and I feel a shudder rip through me. He says, "Bring that to the network. Tell them what happened." I want to refuse. I want to run, but something about the dead-eyed reflection on the screen compels me. I nod. He offers me a paper cup of coffee. I set it aside untouched. When I turn toward the door, the portraits on the wall seem to watch me go. I spent the next 2 hours in a rented taxi, trembling like a leaf. When I called the network, they thought I was pulling a stunt until I faxed them a still from that screen. The image arrived, me, mouth frozen in a silent scream, behind me Ethel's shape half in shadow, half in rotting decomposition. They went silent for a moment, then said, "We want it." That night, I signed a contract, exclusive rights to the footage, portraits, any notes. A 6-figure deal, more money than I'd seen in my life. So in that moment, I made my choice. I slept fitfully, nightmares of drooping faces, of my reflection warping, of Ethel's voice whispering, "Never flinch." By morning, I was on my way back to Tetterly's. I needed more pictures. If one flinch hadn't killed me, maybe the next shot could be perfect, my face frozen not in terror but triumph. I'd conquer the darkness and become famous for it. When I knocked on the door, though, there was no answer. The bell jangled in the empty store, but inside the door was locked. I peered through the dusty glass. Every chair overturned, the portraits smashed, glass shards on the floor. A single lamp lay broken, its cord severed. I found a side door ajar and slipped in. The air smelled of something foul, a rotting wood, stale sweat. The basement stairs lay open as though someone or something had fled downward. I hold my breath, descend. The bulbs flicker, reveal splintered planks, bits of Tetterly's tools scattered, electrodes, wires, the tripod legs snapped. On the basement wall, crudely scratched in jagged letters, I see 5 Never Flinch. You flinched. I stumble backward, my heart pounding. The phrase pulses in my mind, never flinch. I realize I've given away the contract copy to the network already. They have their exclusive story. If Tetterly's gone, maybe I'm free? But then the overhead bulb dies, plunging me into darkness. My camera's light is in my pocket, no battery. My breath catches. I hear soft, dragging footsteps as though something long and sinewy is being pulled across the cement. I switch on my phone's flashlight and sweep the beam. The basement stretches farther than it should. A narrow hallway I never noticed extends beyond a doorframe. There, huddled in the far corner, is Tetterly. His face is ashen, his eyes sunken. He looks at me and smiles, an expression that is bone-deep wrong. "I thought I'd never see you again," he croaks. "Where's Ethel?" I manage. He cocks his head, considering. "She's resting for a time. But there's more to do. You know, I have to find someone who can follow instructions, someone who won't flinch." "You flinched, Peter. You failed her." I take a shaky step back. "Failed her how?" He pushes himself to his feet, and I see his legs are twisted like they've been broken and set wrong. Ethel needs an ending. A final portrait. Someone who can hold still while her face is being properly captured. "You'll do it. You must." My stomach heaves. "No." He laughs, a brittle, rattling sound. "You signed the contract. You're mine." I stare down at the floor. On the concrete, footprints that are 2 sizes too large, wet footprints as if someone with bare feet walked through sludge. My blood runs cold. Tetterly shuffles toward me. I back away until my shoulder hits a stack of crates. He lifts a jagged piece of wood, a splintered 2x4, and raises it. "Stay still," he hisses. I'm shaking so badly I can barely grip my phone. He swings. I dodge, but my foot hits a crate and I go down hard. The wood comes crashing down, thud, just missing my skull. I roll onto my side and come up shooting. I scramble for the stairs, Tetterly's laughter echoing in my ears. "You can't leave. You flinched once. You know the rule, Peter." I burst up the stairs, slam the basement door behind me, and lean against it, panting. The main room is still in shambles, but I force myself to look for anything I can use as a weapon. A heavy tripod leg, yes. I lift it, ready to face whatever's coming. But the storefront door is locked. I charge it shoulder first and it splinters inward. Sunlight floods in. I don't look back. I run. For 3 days, I drive without sleeping east on I-80, past rolling fields of corn, past cities that blur into one another. Every few minutes, I glance at the rearview mirror. Is that a dark shape in my back seat? A drape of black hair? A glint of dead eyes? I'm so jumpy I want to swear I see Ethel Grant's face in every reflection. On the third morning, I collapse at a rundown motel. I switch on the TV, hoping to distract myself. The local news anchors talk about the viral sensation. A horrifying image of a photographer, mid-scream, with a ghostly figure behind him. A film crew is preparing a feature. I switch it off. My fingers flex unconsciously. Images flash through my mind. The electrodes burning my skull. That last command of never flinch. Tetterly's crooked smile as he raised that plank. I know they'll come for me. The contract doesn't just bind me to show the footage. It binds my life to the story. Ethel's spirit wants closure. Tetterly wants a photographer who never flinches. I may have flinched, but that just means I'm now an apprentice, learning what it truly means to stand still in terror. I pack my bags and drive again south, this time into the humid swamps of Georgia. I buy a beat-up sedan, erase this one. I change my name to V. Cole when I check into motels. I rent an apartment in Macon and stay low. But every morning when I wake, my reflection in the mirror is not quite right. My pupils seem too dilated, my skin pale as a sheet. Sometimes I see a second face hovering behind me, melting into my shoulder, Ethel's rotting grin. One night, a rainstorm rages. I wake at 3 a.m. to something brushing against my ankle. I flick on the lamp. A soggy silhouette stands at the foot of my bed, Tetterly. His legs are gnarled stumps, his torso slumped. He doesn't speak. He lifts his head, and there in the doorway, Ethel's body sits perched like a rag doll, her hair matted, her mouth open in a silent, bloodless cry. They say nothing. I freeze. The blinds bang against the window with each gust of wind casting shifting stripes across the floor. Tetterly raises a finger. White bone shining through decayed flesh. Never flinch, he mouths. Ethel tilts her head, and for a moment I think I see tears trickle down her cheeks, tears of dripping mud and dried blood. I raise the tripod leg I've kept under the bed. They vanish, both of them, into the shadows as though they were never there. My heart is racing. The room has grown impossibly cold. I pull the sheets up around me and stare at the ceiling, with swelling in the storm, and I know I can't run anymore. Over the next week, I prepare. I set up a camera in the living room, battery-powered, aimed at the doorway. I tape a measure of wire from it to the bedroom so when something steps over the threshold, I'll get footage. I place empty film cartridges in the fridge to pretend I'm still freelance, still working. I practice holding my breath, stare at my reflection until my eyelids ache. Every night at exactly 3 a.m., the apartment plunges into darkness, power cuts that last exactly 47 seconds. The rain gives way to a wind so fierce it rattles the windows. I sit in the chair, camera in my lap, and count my heartbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4. When the lights snap back on, I look at the monitor. Nothing. But sometimes, if I scroll back, there's a single frame where the door is open and a face peers in, Ethel's hollow eyes, Tetterly's twisted smile, and sometimes me, a reflection in the glass, mouth that same open scream. I know what they want, a perfect, unblinking shot of me facing them. But how can I hold still when the very air is alive with ghosts? On the 7th night, the lights go out at 3 o'clock exactly. I sit in darkness so complete I can't even see my own hand before my face. I feel a presence at the threshold, so thick I can smell it, mold, blood, rotting hair. I lift my camera. My fingers tremble. My vision narrows as though everything beyond the lens has fallen away. Then, from somewhere in the darkness, a voice whispers, "Never flinch." I raise my chin and breathe in. I tell myself, you are not afraid. The lenses gather every raindrop on the window like diamonds. I focus. The doorway fills with a shifting shape. Ethel's head bobs, her body a mess of rags. Tetterly stands behind her, head lolling to one side. My body wants to recoil, but I hold the camera steady, pointed at them. They step closer. The beam of the lens falls across Ethel's eyes, empty holes that stare into my very marrow. I swallow. My legs shake. The camera shakes. I grip it tighter. Tetterly reaches forward, and the stench of long-dead sweat and formaldehyde fills my nostrils. Ethel's voice comes, a wet rasp, hold still. I swallow again. My pulse migrates to my throat. I clamp my jaw. The whispering wind turns to a howl as though the entire world is screaming in my ears. My knuckles bleed from gripping the camera so hard. Beads of sweat drip down my forehead onto the lens. But I don't blink. Not once. Their faces pass through the doorframe, only inches from the lens. Ethel's jaw arcs impossibly wide, as if her bones have been replaced by rubber. Her tongue flicks out rot and rust and bitter decay. Tetterly's hand twitches, his eyes following mine. He thinks I'll flinch. He thinks if I do, he'll be free. But I hold my breath. I watch them step forward into the circle of moonlight at my window. A thunderclap shakes the building. Then they're gone. No crash, no slam, just a momentary swirl of wind that rattles the glass, and they vanish. I stay in place, camera pointed at the spot, until the moon hides behind a cloud and the apartment falls silent. In the morning, I review the footage. The video stamp reads 3 hours and 1 second. Frame by frame, I watch Ethel and Tetterly loom, flicker, dissolve. Their faces are pale, smeared as though smeared with ash. Then frame 152, they're gone. Only shadows remain. I see my own reflection in the lens, blood on my knuckles, sweat on my face, eyes glossy. But I don't see fear. I edit the sequence, package it into a digital file, and email it to the network. As I hit send, I feel a surge of triumph. I never flinched. I captured them both. I, a Peter Vowell, alias V. Cole, have gotten the shot no one else could. I press a final send, and for a moment it's as though the world stands still. Then, as though on cue, the power in my apartment flickers once more. The temperature plummets. I pull my jacket tighter and exhale, watching my breath hang in the air like a ghost. A tap comes at the door, soft, deliberate. I freeze. Through the peephole, I see nothing. Just the dim hallway light reflecting off the polished knob. I back away slowly. The light on the monitor blinks, incoming call. My phone buzzes on the coffee table. I pick it up. A text from an unknown number reads, "You held still. Now it's your turn." I pocket the phone, grab the camera one last time, and walk to the door. The hallway stretches out empty. I step into the dim light and close the door behind me. The corridor is silent as a tomb. I walk forward, camera at the ready. Somewhere down the hall, a door creaks open. I lift the camera and the lens focuses on a figure in the shadows. It's Tetterly, and behind him, Ethel, her hair fanned like a halo of dread. They stand together, waiting. I raise my hand, steady the focus. My heart is a metronome, tick-tock, tick-tock. They murmur, "Never flinch," in unison. I lower my finger onto the shutter. My breath catches. The world tightens around me, sounds sharpen, colors intensify. I hold the frame, hold my breath, and press the button. The flash explodes, and I'm blinded. For a fraction of a second, I see everything. Their faces, contorted and yearning. The walls of the hallway covered in old wallpaper peeling like dead skin. Then there's only blackness. When I open my eyes, I'm back in my apartment. The monitor lights up with a single frame, me, mid-scream, mouth open, eyes empty. Behind me, a mirror in the hallway reflecting Tetterly's crooked smile and Ethel's hollow gaze. I realize I was the one behind the lens this time. I let go of the camera. It clatters to the floor. I don't even raise my head. I curl into a ball on the nearest couch, staring at the blinking monitor. Outside, dawn's pale light creeps in. I wait. I don't know how long. Hours pass. Finally, the network calls, the footage unreal. We're airing it tonight. I hang up and walk to the window. The sun is rising, gray and ghostly. I think of Tetterly and Ethel wherever they are now, freed or bound, I don't know. I touch my cheek, bruises forming but no burns. I whisper I never flinched. And somewhere, from the depths of that dark corridor I'll never truly escape, I hear the faintest echo of a whisper, never flinch.